So, interesting reading. Look forward to an exhortation titled Managing Expectations.
Good morning. And the weather is kind of cooperating outside and makes it really seem like it is starting to be good morning with springtime coming. And the sun is out, still a little bit chilly, but it's always good to be here in person, or if you are watching at home nice and safe, it's always good little reminder there that there's people watching, possibly from all around the country. And it's a nice little blessing that we've been able to have during this time. And it seems like this is starting to be kind of the new norm, where with technology, where it's starting to have a little bit of a split feeling to it. You have some people in person, some people online, and it's starting to be the new expectation that's going on with all these advancements in technology that's going on. You see it in school, where about half the class in person, half the class online. You see in work, where half people are on site, half people are from home. And that's something great that technology has been able to provide for us, this expectation that we're still all able to gather together despite the ongoing circumstances around. And when you think about that type of expectation, you think about all the other expectations that we have in our lives. Because every single day, each one of us puts forth an expectation, whether we know it or not. When I was thinking, example is when you're growing up as a child, there's the expectation that you're going to listen to your parents and to obey them if they have any rules, that you would abide by them. If they have a curfew, and if you're out after that curfew, there's the expectation that there may be some type of discipline for that. There's the expectation that you try and stay out of trouble and try and live a godly life, all growing up while living under your parents' roof. That's that expectation set out for us. And then when you're not under their roof, if you're in school, there could be the expectation for you to get a specific type of grade, to get straight A's, straight B's, to avoid detention, to stay out of trouble at school. And at the end of school, there is the expectation that you will be able to graduate. And no matter which level of school, from primary school, high school, college, with the associates, bachelors, masters, the point of going to school is eventually to be able to graduate and join the workforce, where there's even more expectations, where there's expectations set upon by your boss or for yourself to achieve a goal. For instance, since I'm in sales, it's a goal to sell X amount of products per day. And I'll set that goal for myself, and if I'm expected to achieve that goal, because I am expected to do my job to my fullest ability and not to slack off, not to take too many breaks. And if I have any issues in performing that goal, I am expected to communicate that with my supervisor. If the issues are technologically, if they're with someone else personally, if they're mentally, physically, I am expected to communicate all that to those around me. And with relationships, no matter the type of relationship that may be in, if it's to friends, it's co-workers, associates, if it's with a significant other, there's the expectation that it should be on equal footing, that no one person should dominate the relationship, and it should be even. And if it is a relationship with a significant other, you have the expectation set apart in the wedding vows to be loving and loyal to one another, and to be honest with one another, not to hide anything. So the expectations set out within there. And when you think about today with attending church, without me personally, without knowing who was going to be here, I expected my dad to be here, expected Cease and Unity to be here, because Sue, Mark, because all these people, they're here every week, and no matter, even if they're whatever's going on in their life, I expect them to be here. And with those online, we expect you to continue to show up, to try and attend as often as possible. whether it be in your own will, in person, online. It's set forth that expectation, and to be able to participate however you can. If you're a baptized brother, to be able to speak, give prayers. If you're a sister, to be able to help out with the emblems, maybe play the piano, or just being able to support those who need, to give a phone call to someone that's struggling, to be a shoulder to someone to cry on. These are the expectations that are set out for us. And again, it's very easy in our lives to see all the expectations on a daily life. But when we're thinking about expectations, we want to think about it especially as it relates to faith, because they're very similar concepts. And from my research, I found that a general definition of an expectation, it's a strong belief that something will happen in the future based off a past event. And faith, in and of itself, it's going to be complete confidence that something will happen, and it's outside of our control. So with expectation, it's a program function. I expected, the people to be here today because I've seen them show up in person before. I know that each one of them has specific roles, and because of that, I expect them to be able to show up to church today. Maybe once church is over and I'm ready to leave, when I turn my keys in my ignition for my car, I expect the car to turn on because I have experienced it before, that when I put the keys in, the car is going to turn on. I put that expectation out there because it's a program function. When I go to sleep tonight, I expect to be able to wake up tomorrow because that's what happened last night, the night before that, every night prior. These are all program functions that are based off the past. And it's a strong belief. It's not a guarantee with these expectations that they will come true. It's a strong belief based off something that is physically there. And so with that, you can say that expectation is, in a way, faith turned reality. Because faith, you have a good basis of where something comes from. We have faith that the Bible is correct. And because of that, our expectation is to be able to follow the Bible based off this faith. And it's a more of a results-based expectation where we're expected a certain outcome based off it. And that's one of the key aspects that does make up an expectation. It's having faith or belief that the expectation will come true. Otherwise, we would never set forth that expectation in the first place. And another key aspect of it, an expectation, it's communication. And when you're setting forth the expectation with someone, whether it be if I'm expecting someone else to show up or not, I want to be able to communicate, to form a relationship with that person, to really understand what they're going through. If I'm walking down the street and I see someone with headphones in, I may expect them to start talking on the phone because I don't know them too much, and that's just a general expectation I can form. But if I'm seeing one of my friends and I know that they only put in headphones when they're talking to someone on the phone, that way I'm able to form that better expectation. Because again, it is based off that relationship that we have with that other person. And then the last key aspect, it's forgiveness. And it's forgiveness in terms of if that expectation isn't fulfilled, and especially in terms of someone else, do we still want to forgive them? Maybe we expect someone to, in school, to get straight A's, and they don't do that. So are we able to forgive them as our Heavenly Father forgives us? And thinking back on these three key aspects, belief, communication, and forgiveness, we can see how all of those, it relates to God and His hope for us. Because we have faith that God will provide for us in everything that we do. And it's because of this faith, this belief that we have, that we're able to set apart in our daily lives with hope. And we are expected, because of that, to be able to follow His words. With communication, we're setting forth a specific relationship with God where He is our master, we are His servants. And it's through this relationship that, like a father-son relationship, that we're able to listen to what He wants, and because He's given us these set of instructions for us to abide by. So we know what He wants from us. And it's on our end to be able to fulfill that expectation. And with forgiveness, we fail, we sin all the time, or we disobey, we don't reach up to His expectations that He has set out for us. But God will always forgive us as long as we are true in our heart. If we're sinning and then, mentally saying, "Oh, sorry, God, didn't mean it to happen," but in our heart we're not actually sorry, then that's a different type of forgiveness. That's where it's not necessarily going to happen. But if we believe in our heart that God will forgive us, He will. And in that same way, we should forgive other humans if they fail to reach our expectations as well. And so when we're setting forth these expectations, we need to be able to balance both perception and reality. Because if I set forth my goal, my expectation to be the first man on the moon, so there's a couple of problems with that. The biggest one being that there have been plenty of other men on the moon. Another one being I'm not an astronaut, so unless there's going to be like a space elevator that brings everyone to the moon, it's not very likely that I'll be able to achieve this goal, this expectation set out for me. But if I want to, again, be able to balance both my perception of what I want to happen and reality, what should realistically happen, that's setting a goal for myself, such as something simple, maybe reading the Bible one chapter a day, where I know how to read, so it balances the reality. I have time to be able to read, and it's something not too difficult, and something everyone can do, given you have a Bible, which is nice now. You can have it on your phone, you have the time, or maybe even listen to an audiobook about the Bible each day. It's being able to balance that perception and reality, set forth these goals, these expectations set out for ourselves. And so I do want to look at one of the goals that God has set out for us, where He was able to balance it, in Joshua 1, verses 7 through 9. So again, this is Joshua 1, verses 7 through 9. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you'll be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. So with that, it's a pretty simple expectation set out for us. To obey the law, be strong and courageous, do not be afraid, because God is with us, and we have that relationship with Him that shows that we have faith to trust in Him, that He will always be with us, based off this book that's given out for us. And when you think about all these good expectations set out for us, you also have to think sometimes in life, it doesn't go as planned. There's always going to be bumps along the road. So if you're expecting positive expectations, positive aspects to happen every single day, at times you're going to be disappointed, because that's the way that life is. There's always going to be bumps and bruises along the way, always going to be challenges. When you think back at the life of Job, how the first couple of chapters, he's living life great. He's got all this land, all this family, and all of a sudden he gets tempted, and he wasn't prepared for it, where all of it was taken away. And he laments over it for almost 40 chapters, and not quite prepared to deal with all the suffering that was set out for him. And that's where we need to be able to take that step back in each day to be able to overcome any of these difficult trials, temptations set out in our lives. Let's say for job, if you happen to get fired for some reason, it's a down type of, it's very sad. And then if you just think on the negatives the whole time, you may kind of miss out on the positives. Maybe the job was more of a toxic environment where your boss wasn't too nice to you, the pay wasn't as great, benefits not so good, and now you have the opportunity to look for something else. So with each of these difficult times, the challenges ahead of us, we need to be able to find some type of positive and to take away from it, be able to persevere. I used to think back about, maybe a couple years ago, where my mindset each day was to expect the worst to happen. And that way, if anything better than it would happen, then I would be satisfied. If the worst happened, then I would be ready for it. I learned very quickly that was a bad way of thinking, because I was just in a sad mood all the time, just downcast and not where I want to be at on a mental level. So what I've been trying to do instead is to think of the optimist side, where whatever I think is I expect the best case scenario to always happen. Which again, it's thinking more extremes, but in this best case scenario, if it happens, I'm ready for it. If it doesn't happen, my new mindset is, oh well, try and learn something from it and keep on moving. With each of these trials in our lives, if we learn how to manage our expectations for them, we'll be much better prepared to deal with these types of situations. So with that, I do want to turn to Philippians chapter 1, verses 27 through 30. So again, that is Philippians chapter 1, verses 27 through 30. Whatever happens, conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Then, whether I come and see you or only hear about you in my absence, I will know that you stand firm in the one Spirit, striving together as one for the faith of the gospel, without being frightened in any way by those who oppose you. This is a sign to them that they will be destroyed, but that you will be saved, and that by God. For it has been granted to you, on behalf of Christ, not only to believe in him, but also to suffer for him, since you are going through the same struggle you saw I had, and now hear that I still have. So you can see here how Paul is acknowledging that everyone is going to suffer for Christ. That is one of the aspects of being a Christian. To be able to, but on our end, if we're able to, again, expect this type of suffering, then it's a lot easier for us to be able to overcome it when it does happen, be able to rely on friends, family for support to help us get it through these tough times. Because the end goal of all this suffering, of all our expectations, is the expectation for the kingdom. And it is our expectation, our faith, with complete confidence that it will come. And with that, I want to turn to Matthew chapter 24, verses 42 through 44. So again, that's Matthew chapter 24, verses 42 through 44. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. So this relates back to what I was saying earlier about expectations versus faith. So expectation, at some point you are expecting it to happen based off some prior knowledge. It's that programmed function. But our faith for the kingdom to come, our basis, it is this book right in front of us. But we have complete confidence that it will come true, that it will come. We don't know when it's going to come, so it's hard to set forth an expected date for that. But our faith is that it will arrive. And so each day we need to be able to prepare ourselves. And that's why we have this set of instructions, this book out for us, Because if we commit ourselves to our faith, to this goal, this final expectation, then we'll be able to reach it. And once we get into the kingdom, then we're able to see what our expectations for that is going to happen based off this book. We're hoping for resurrection for all those who have passed in the faith, for no more fighting, everlasting joy, one universal language so that everyone's able to communicate with one another, and for absolute peace on earth. And this is why we keep on having faith, hope, expectations set out for us, so that we're able to reach this end goal, the kingdom. And so, again, the biggest thing that we need to take away today is expectations and faith. It's very similar, but our end goal is to be able to change our expectations, our strong belief, to faith, which is complete confidence. And it's going to happen to each person different on an individual basis. It'll depend on if you want a full commitment. Baptism is a great stepping start with that. No matter how old you are, if you want to fully commit yourselves to Christ, to have complete confidence that he will come and set his kingdom back for us, then that's what we need to do, to take that first step, to change our strong belief, which is based off of program function. Again, faith is, if I were to stand back here and just fall back down and hope that someone would carry me, would lift me up without knowing there's anyone here. Expectation would be, if I've seen someone before go ahead and lift someone up, then seen that before. But faith, this is without having that burden, to be able to read the book of the law, be able to learn from it, and have complete confidence that God will come. And we need to be able to learn to manage our expectations towards others as well. Especially in a peer familial relationship, if I'm expecting someone to show up to something and they don't, or if I'm expecting someone to perform an act and they don't, we need to be able to have forgiveness to be able to forgive them just as our Father has forgiven us for everything. Because in everything, we still need to have faith in that higher cause. Everything we do in here, it is for a higher purpose on this life. And it's through this higher purpose that we're able to manage our expectations for others easier. And I want to wrap up with the one final thought of our expectations for ourselves, for our roles, especially in terms of reaching the kingdom. I think that there's a great verse I want to end off with that lays out what we need to do in order to reach the kingdom. And it's a pretty good verse. Maybe you've heard of it before. It's Micah 6, verses 8. So again, this is the roles, the expectations set out for us to be able to reach this kingdom that we have faith in that is going to happen. So again, Micah 6, verses 8. He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God.